Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to Quinn's Cars. Today we have a really exciting topic that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and that's the influence of TV, movies, pop culture into the car industry and the car enthusiast. And what I mean when I say that is there's been a good amount of films and TV shows that have been really instrumental in the way that people think about certain cars. That being said, there are a handful of movies that specifically influence the way that I think about cars and the way that I think about these specific cars and these specific movies, and how that's branched off into my love of cars, its intrigue, its design, and its excitement. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What movies or TV shows or pop culture references influenced you into loving cars? So the first movie I want to talk about is John Wick. I love this movie so much. There are so many exciting scenes in this movie with John Wick being an assassin. If you guys haven't seen the movie, if you haven't seen the movie and you love cars, you gotta go see the movie. It's incredible. I mean, there are several different cars that are featured and motorcycles, and if you love any motorized vehicle, you've got to see this movie. You've got to see the whole series. That being said, the Ford Mustang in the first John Wick movie is what captivated most people into realizing this is going to be an exciting movie, an exciting franchise for this film and for future films. The Mustang in the first movie was the 1969 Boss 429. It was known as John Wick's first car and the car that kind of set everything in motion of, not to give any spoilers, but things that happen with the car and with certain other characters that lead to the events that basically project the plot for the rest of the franchise. The reason this first car is so important is because it's something that he loves and something that he cherishes in a time where something really bad happens to his wife. Now, I'm being purposefully vague because I do love this series, and if you haven't seen the movie, I don't want to ruin it. And the car kind of gets first introduced at a gas station with the Russian mafia, and one of the members of the mafia wants to buy John Wick's Mustang, and he introduces it as a 69 Mustang Boss 429.
Mustang Boss 429. She's 70. 69.
Again, if people have done research on this movie or this car, they know that it's actually a 1969 Mach 1. They modified the Mustang to look like a Boss 429, specifically with some of the hood elements, with the chin spoiler, and they did this really because the Boss 429, there were less than 1,000 examples, especially of that year, of that time. And so when you're doing stunts with vehicles of this caliber, you don't want to be destroying vehicles that are that rare, especially if you're trying to fit within a certain budget. For the purposes of trying to figure out what the specs are of the vehicle in John Wick, it is a V8, it has 335 horsepower, it has 440 pound-feet of torque, sounds like an absolute beast. Now, with these vehicles being heavily modded, it's more likely that the Mustang that was used in the John Wick films was tuned to be upwards of 500 plus horsepower. Especially when you're trying to get that sound and that performance to do those stunts, they mod the hell out of these vehicles. So there's not a particular definitive answer with a lot of these vehicles that they use in stunts for movies. John Wick's reputation within the series is one that he is extremely well versed in vehicles and weaponry. And he chooses these vehicles and weapons as his mode for completing his tasks. So the important thing with pop culture and movies like this is when you have an exciting character that is so well versed in so many things, you almost kind of trust this master of violence and art as an authority figure for this Ford Mustang. Whenever you guys get the chance, please like and subscribe. I love making these videos. Appreciate any and all support from you guys. I also have my merch website linked below if you guys are interested in hats, clothing, cups, stickers. Please go ahead and support me down below. All right, thanks, guys. The next movie that got me personally really excited, and other people that I noticed really loved this film and the vehicles in this film, was the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling. This movie has such a stoic, intense feel. Him being a little bit of a violent, almost like psychopath a little bit, but having this love for this person that he lives next to leads him down all these crazy avenues that gets him in kind of big trouble with people that almost put him in over his head. You can see in the film he engages in some like criminal activity and uses his skills as a stunt driver to make a little extra money on the side, getting people out of crazy situations. One particular scene that was really, I feel like, the pinnacle of the driving scenes in this movie, which is what everyone's waiting for. I mean, the movie's called Drive, so you're waiting for a scene where the character is going to be driving like an insane person. And that scene is when he's in a 2011 Ford Mustang GT. The interesting thing is that it's technically just a stock GT. This thing looks and sounds so menacing. I have always loved this generation of Mustang, not only with the way it looks and the architecture of the muscularity of this car, but also with its performance. It has a 5-liter V8, 412 horsepower, 390 pound-feet of torque. And like I said, with some of these vehicles being modded out, this one, as far as my research showed me, was a vehicle that was actually just stock. It was just a stock GT, a stock manual GT that they painted black. I think this car was so influential too because Mustang has always been a popular car, not only in movies, but also just within the car enthusiast culture. This movie was really iconic because you have a character that has really classic elements. It's kind of exciting to see him start to engage in something where he's going to have an escape scene, and then him kind of stealing the Mustang GT to get into that next scene. And then when you see him kind of whipping it around, you kind of are able to see what that car is capable of, not only with him drifting. I mean, at one point he does a 180 and he's driving backwards, and then he does another 180 and starts swerving around and like leads this Chrysler 300 into a pile of cones. I think the car itself, the Mustang GT itself, really adds an element of power and excitement that got people really engaged with that specific car. Now, I would be crazy not to mention this next vehicle in this next movie, and that is in 2007 when the movie Transformers came out and people lost their minds over Bumblebee. Bumblebee being a 2006 concept Camaro. Now, when the main character, Shia LaBeouf's character, starts out and he's trying to get a car and he's trying to be cool and get the girl that he likes in school, he's trying to get a cool looking car and he stumbles across, well, kind of stumbles across, the car kind of chooses him in a way, but anyway, he kind of stumbles across the 1970s Camaro Z28. And that Camaro is actually a really cool looking classic Camaro. Classic V8 rumble, classic look. It's got that kind of muscular square headlight design, very distinct for the 70s. That 2006 concept car where it becomes very modern, very muscular. And one of the reasons why this car was so exciting during its time and why it packed such an insane punch, the level of sales just skyrocketed for Camaro during that time. And I think it just added so much excitement for a car that added a relatable element.
That car is sensitive. I mean, $4,000 just drove off. What?
When these cars get introduced into movies, they get ingrained into these elements of relatable things that happen in life. I mean, the kid is trying to be cool in high school, have something exciting, and he's trying to have purpose and a drive for something bigger than himself. Those are all classic themes that have been in movies and TV shows for decades and decades. It's something that is just really, really relatable, and the fact that the car is something that is basically a drivable superhero for this main character, but also something that kind of gives the main character purpose for something bigger than himself, really adds to the symbolism of the Camaro in this film. And I think that not only was it a cool looking car, but it also had that strong, relatable symbolism behind it of not only being a superhero, but driving something that was a futuristic robot. Really made that car exciting. Another great example of a movie franchise that has ingrained itself deeply with pop culture, even for people that don't necessarily care about cars to an insane degree. I think that you really don't have to be a car enthusiast to love the franchise Fast and Furious. Anyone and their mother knows about the Fast and the Furious franchise and the crazy cars that they bring in those films. I don't think that there's one particular vehicle other than maybe the classic Charger that Dom Toretto has that is one pinpointed vehicle that you could point to and say that that one car has really made a mark in that film, because there's so many cars. But if you were to take it back to the beginning, I think that Paul Walker's Bayside Blue 1999 Skyline Nissan GT-R was one of the most iconic cars that really dropped people's jaws and said, what the hell is that? It just had such a classic street look. And the important thing with these vehicles too, especially the Skyline GT-R, is it really introduced the popularity and importance of the JDM car community. Now, of course, they had Tokyo Drift later on, and that added several Japanese cars that were really, really exciting. But I think that Skyline GT-R in the first Fast and Furious movie really pushed pop culture to pay attention to these JDM cars and really paved the way for the Supra, for the Honda S2000, for the NSX. A lot of these cars that are introduced in the Fast and the Furious franchise, not only in that film, but later on, really made these cars exciting as street vehicles, but also as an introduction to the excitement of modding vehicles. I think when you see these crazy modifications on these vehicles, some being a little ridiculous. I mean, I think the last one, they like added a rocket to a Pontiac Fiero and shot up into space. I mean, after a certain point, I think it was maybe the 6th or 7th film, they just lost their minds. But those beginning films had a charm of modification culture where they had some ridiculous modifications. But some were legitimate modifications that made people excited about what a car's limits could be. Obviously, NOS was a big thing during that time in the early 2000s, late 90s, and Fast and Furious definitely featured that. But there were also reasonable things like intercoolers and exhaust setups. It really gave people who love modification an avenue to watch something and share that love with other people who maybe don't love cars as much. The twin-turbo inline-6 of the Skyline GT-R 2 is just such a perfect amount of power and performance for a vehicle of that size. So not only was the power and performance perfect for the Skyline GT-R, but the look was so sleek. It had such a cool, it really is like the epitome of the perfect street car. It has those circle taillights that are just so iconic. I mean, as soon as you see those, my mind thinks GT-R. Now, there are so many examples of so many different movies that you could list that have influential cars that people have loved and that people have loved from those movies and have gotten influence from those movies to love a car or those specific types of cars. One vehicle that really caught my eye when I was younger and watching movies and starting to get that love for cars was actually the Ferrari that was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Bueller.
Now, once again, this car is a replica. They're not going to have a Ferrari this rare and this old be something that they're going to destroy in a film. It would just be too expensive and wouldn't make sense. So this is a replica, but it is an almost perfect replica of an amazing Ferrari vehicle, and that Ferrari being the 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California Spider. The 3-liter V12 with 280 horsepower was one of the best sounding vehicles I have ever heard from or since. I mean, the V12 sound from Ferrari is iconic. That red color that Ferrari has really adopted as their official color, and the body lines of classic cars, but specifically this 61 Ferrari, was just so captivating.
1961 Ferrari 250 GT California. Less than 100 when made. Father spent 3 years restoring this car.
This whole movie is synonymous with the theme of seizing the day. The whole point of this movie is a kid taking the day off, getting out of school, and having the craziest adventure he can possibly have with people that he loves. It was kind of a revolutionary movie for me to see as a younger person, and I think that the newer generation, if they get a chance to see this, will not only be captivated just by the sheer story of like the comedy of the principal, the comedy of Ferris Bueller getting out of school and kind of just being like a delinquent and just seizing the day and doing these ridiculous things that really no one would ever be able to accomplish, but because he's this weird enigma, he's able to accomplish these crazy feats, one of which convincing Cameron to get them to drive this Ferrari. And between the scenes of them riding in the Ferrari and kind of that imagery of them seizing the day with something that is also synonymous with seizing the day, this Ferrari that just screams luxury, vacation, and adventure. You also get a really funny sense of that too when the valet guys take the Ferrari and you hear the Star Wars theme as they're driving over the cliff and like slamming down on the pavement and having the absolute time of their lives. Like, you get the symbolism of this car kind of carrying in its seats that sense of freedom. A real quick disclaimer so I don't get sued by 27 different media outlet companies. I don't own the rights to these movie clips. These are obviously just clips that I'm creating to not only inform you, but kind of create like a creative aspect of something that excited me when I was younger and influenced me when I was younger and influenced several people that I knew growing up. I mean, the Camaro Transformers transformed the way people look at cars. Not to be corny, but like, these vehicles were almost as iconic as the main characters. That Mustang projected the whole plot in John Wick. The Ferrari in Ferris Bueller's Day Off represented everything that film represented in that vehicle. I'm really excited and curious to see what you guys think, because I know there's a million films and a million TV shows that have influenced so many people, and cars have been a big part of that every step of the way from generation to generation. So let me know what you guys think of what influenced you and what cars you guys love due to pop culture. Thank you so much again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share this with everyone you know, and let me know what you guys think. All right, thanks guys.